Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So this video is maybe going to be a little bit shorter today, but straight to the point, okay? Regarding this announcement that a Palestinian family from Gaza was allowed to enter the UK, or will be allowed to enter the UK under the Ukraine refugee scheme. Now, also we're going to tackle the fact that this will open floodgates for the future, which could potentially lead to over 1 million asylum seekers entering our country. Now, the judge that gave this decision said that this family live in extreme conditions, right? Life-threatening conditions in a refugee camp. Now, I fully understand that, and I have absolutely no problem with any family wanting to leave a war-torn country, you know, to come to a safer place. I have no problem with that at all, just to let that out there, okay? But what I have a problem with is when your citizens in your own country, the British people, are currently living in those same conditions, extreme life-threatening conditions. Okay, it's not a war-torn country, but it's currently a country where people cannot afford to live. There's a cost of living crisis. There's a lack of housing. The heating bills are through the roof. You have pensioners that are having to cancel TVs, for example, just to survive another month. Now, when these things are happening in your country and you have a homeless problem as well, then this is unacceptable. Question: what happens to the UK when every hotel is full? What happens when the council buys up every council house in the country? There's going to be nothing left for the British people. Now, this judge clearly calls the shots. They've went above and beyond the government and made this decision. This decision is completely closed-minded. It is not even looking at the current problems with crime, with housing, with economy in the UK. It's not looking at any of those issues. It's only seeing a loophole and taking advantage of it. Now, what's the core issue here? Let's tackle that first. Britain can't take everybody. Why the hell are we taking everybody? Why can't we be selective on who we take? Why do we have to take anyone and everyone? You know, I wouldn't have as much of a problem, folks, if it was actual families that were coming in, but it's not. It's military aged men, it's single men that are leaving their countries. They've got criminal records and they're infiltrating our country and our culture. Now, more asylum seekers equals what? Fewer homes for Brits. Councils are actually now starting to buy private housing, which is pushing Brits out of the housing market. Council tax is going to go up too. This is one of the reasons why council tax is probably going up, because they're starting to buy housing for immigrants, not for the Brits. Now, public services are of course overwhelmed. You know that, I know that, and there's massive strains on the country. Okay, now who foots the bill for that? Because it's not the immigrants, it's not even the government, folks. It is you, the British taxpayer. Now let's tackle the economic reality, because I think that should be something that we look at, right? Economic reality. How can we sit here and say the UK is still one of the richest countries in the world when clearly now, in the eyes of everybody, it is diminished, okay, from what it used to be? It's a shadow of what it used to be. The UK is not rich anymore. It's not rich in culture, and it's not rich in money terms. Now, there's no growth. In the last 20 years, the country's hardly grew, the economy. There's seriously high inflation and also rising national debt that is only going to get higher and higher. So we clearly can't afford to look after our own. So how the hell can we afford to bring in other people? Now, I want to tackle this point because I think this is hugely important. This is something that the government have ignored, and I'm going to do a video on this very soon. It's the cultural argument. Should we be accepting? And if we should, who should we accept? Well, like I just mentioned before, I think Britain should be selective. We are a country that is dying, folks, on its knees right now, in its last breath. The final nail has been hit into the coffin with this potential loophole that's going to be taken advantage of. Now, why can't we take in the best of the best and select the brightest who are going to contribute to our society? This would be one of the starting points to try and move back up as a country. Not every culture, right? Not every culture aligns with British culture. For you Brits that have grew up in the late 90s or the early 2000s, it was a different country, right? I actually loved being in the UK. in my teenage years. It was a wonderful place to be. And I'm thinking to myself, why was it so good? Why was it so different? Why did it feel so different? I'll tell you why. Culture. Right now, the British culture is gone. It's no longer dominant and it's not respected. When I was growing up in the UK, British culture was a thing that you help your neighbour, you look after each other, you have a laugh, there's good banter, you don't take life so seriously, but you get by, right? And you have a nice time in the most part. You try and live your life. But now it's doom and it's gloom, and there's crime rates going through the roof. You don't even feel safe when you walk out of your house. Some people can't even walk out of their house. This is because mass immigration. This is because multiculturalism. One of the worst things to ever happen to the UK. Multiculturalism. No assimilation, folks. The British government spent no time and no money in trying to assimilate all of these cultures coming into the UK. Instead, they just opened the doors and allowed them in and just stood back and watched it hit the fire, right? What you have now is a bunch of different cultures living in small spaces, and they all have different laws, different rules, different beliefs, and different cultures. And they're all living by their specific belief and specific culture. This creates an atmosphere that is just unsustainable. It is not safe for a reason, because some cultures have completely no respect for other people or other certain demographics. You can see where I'm getting at here. Now, that is the problem. Why can't the government, or why haven't the government made English ability number one? Everyone that comes into the country should be speaking English. 100%. They need to know English. It's an English-speaking country. They need to assimilate into the culture. Why is British culture not, why is there not a culture course? Why are these things not provided? Now, a bigger problem is, of course, this judge that has made this ruling that is affecting all of the British people. This is one of the worst decisions to make right now in the current state of the UK. The ruling, like I said before, ignores housing crisis, it ignores crime rates, and it ignores economic problems. To allow this family in may well be good for their human rights, but for the human rights of the British people, this is a violation. Final thoughts. Britain should not be the doormat of the world, okay? We cannot be seen as the world's safety net. We don't have a big enough space or infrastructure. We should help where we can. I have no problem with that. I think we should help anyone that we can, provided we look after and help our own first. British people first, okay? And that's what the government have wrong. Right now, the British people are at the bottom of the totem pole. We are the enemy. It's everybody else before. And that's the problem. So what do you think? Should the UK close their doors now? Or is it too late? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.